Some betrayals don't explode, they whisper. You walk into your own house for a forgotten folder and the silence feels wrong. Then you hear running water upstairs, one hallway, one door. And there they are, your wife in the bathtub with the neighbor, your soap, your towels, your home. In one frame, your marriage turns to dust. Tonight's story isn't for us to cheer at anyone's downfall, and it's not here to judge. It's for Chung Ta to sit with that brutal moment when trust doesn't just break, it gets used against you. Because this man didn't scream or swing. He stayed calm, locked the bathroom door, and made one quiet phone call. To the neighbor's wife. And when she arrived and saw what he saw, everything changed. Stay with me, because the real shock isn't what happened in the tub. It's what they were planning next. My name is Blaze Camden. I'm not proud of how much this still hurts to say out loud, but I'm done carrying it alone. Before I tell you the full story, can you let me know you're here with me? Just comment hi or tell me where you're watching from. I mean it, sometimes knowing someone is listening is the only thing that keeps you steady. And if you're the kind of person who stays for the truth, who believes stories like this deserve to be heard, please subscribe. It helps more than you think, especially when you're trying to rebuild your life one honest sentence at a time. Thank you. And now, let me tell you everything. There are days that just work. Not because they're exceptional, but because everything moves exactly the way you expect it to. Tuesday was one of those days. My alarm buzzed at 6:00 sharp. I was downstairs by 6:15, coffee in hand, watching local news with the volume low and the subtitles on. Delaney was already in the kitchen, hair pulled back, robe cinched, standing in front of the stove like she had every morning for the last 6 years. The house smelled clean. The lights were set to a soft golden tone. The sink was empty except for my coffee mug and her breakfast bowl. The thermostat read 71.3, just the way I liked it. It was the kind of morning that reinforced everything I believed about routine, about structure, about stability. I'm a risk adjuster. I work in insurance, mostly loss assessments and policy disputes. I've been trained to look at events in terms of causality and pattern, so I notice when things shift even slightly. But that morning, there was nothing to suggest what was coming. Not yet. Delaney smiled at me as she flipped through her phone. She was still smiling when she said, "You've got your meeting at 2, right?" I nodded. She already knew that. She kept scrolling. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, face unreadable, and then flipped it over, screen down on the counter. I made a note of it, not with suspicion, but with curiosity. She usually kept her phone face up. "Everything good?" I asked, sipping my coffee. "Yeah," she said quickly. "Just group chat stuff. Boring." The answer came too fast. It was perfectly shaped, perfectly neutral. It felt manufactured. But I didn't press. I'd learned that not every strange note in a marriage meant dissonance. People have off days. Maybe she was tired. Maybe I was being too sensitive. We kissed goodbye like we always did, short, familiar, and I backed my car out of our driveway on Ellery Court, just another cul-de-sac in Carmel, Indiana. The Vaughns across the street. Asher and Juno were out walking their boys. Milo was waving a stick like it was a sword. Beck was sitting in the red wagon chewing on a cereal bar. Asher raised his hand to me and I waved back. It was the kind of moment you'd see in a real estate brochure. Suburbia polished and idyllic. Our families were tight. We shared everything from BBQs to babysitting duty. I'd fixed their leaky faucet one weekend. He helped me string lights over the patio. I trusted Asher. I liked Asher. He was the kind of guy you left your tools with and never worried they'd go missing. Delaney and Juno were the same way. They traded recipes, watched each other's kids. Juno once dropped off a lasagna just because. Delaney called her a real one, and I believed that too. Ours was the kind of neighborhood where trust wasn't just assumed, it was the currency of belonging. But something had shifted. In the last few months, Delaney had started going out midday. Just quick trips, she said. Groceries, dry cleaning errands, always with a breezy smile. And yet whenever I called during those times, I either got voicemail or an "oh, I left my phone in the kitchen." She also began putting more effort into her appearance only on certain days. Lip gloss at noon, hairstyled when she said she was just hitting target. I noticed, but I didn't confront. I rationalized. People change. That morning, as I grabbed my bag and keys, I overheard her say something on the phone, soft casual. "He leaves at 8:10. My ears pricked, but I didn't stop to ask who she was talking about. I assumed it was a delivery person, or maybe she was scheduling a friend visit. It didn't hit me until later. Why would anyone else need to know my exact departure time? By 12:47 that afternoon, I was halfway through prepping a presentation when I realized I'd left a critical file folder at home. Originals, handwritten notes, not something I could just email in. I checked the time, flagged my assistant, and told my manager I'd need 20 minutes. No big deal. I got in the car with one intention: get in, grab the folder, head back. The streets looked the same. The sun was still bright. The air was still that crisp Indiana mid-October breeze. But something in my chest tightened as I turned back into Ellery Court. Something I couldn't name yet. And as I made the final turn, the feeling intensified. My driveway came into view, and so did the first red flag. Asher's truck was parked in front of my garage. Not on the street, not in front of his own house. It was in my driveway, perfectly aligned, like it had been there before. Like whoever parked it knew exactly how much space to leave from the hedge line. I killed the engine and just sat for a second, squinting. Maybe he dropped something off. Maybe he and Delaney were planning a surprise. I reached for those excuses faster than I knew I could think them. The front door was locked. I used my key, stepped inside, and was immediately struck by how silent the house was. No Spotify playing from Delaney's phone. No podcast in the background. Just the low hum of the fridge and the ticking clock in the hallway. The kitchen looked untouched from this morning. Baked on oatmeal in her bowl. My coffee mug still by the sink. No new dishes. No new smells. "Del," I called out. No answer. I walked through the living room, noticing small things. The throw blanket was still bunched in the corner. The lamp on the console table was off, unusual for midday. Her indoor slippers weren't at the door. They were missing entirely. Upstairs, I heard it. The sound of running water. The faint rush of a shower muffled by walls and the closed door of the master bathroom. My throat tightened. I climbed the stairs slowly, each creak underfoot louder than it should have been. The air smelled like eucalyptus and warm tile, our bathroom scent. I told myself again, she's just showering. Maybe Asher's here for something normal. Maybe I'm jumping. The bathroom door wasn't fully closed. It was ajar by a few inches, and steam coiled out like breath from a secret. I heard voices, not raised, not conversational, intimate, whispery, the kind of talking you only do when you think no one else is listening. My hand hovered over the knob, my other clenched tight at my side. My heart was pounding, but I wasn't breathing hard. If anything, I felt separate, like I'd stepped out of myself and was watching from above. I pushed the door open. They didn't hear it at first. The shower was still on. Their heads were bent together, half submerged in foam, laughing at something. And then Delaney looked up. Her eyes met mine, and every ounce of color drained from her face. Asher twisted around next. His reaction was slower, more defensive, shock giving way to calculation. My mouth opened, but I didn't shout. "Don't move," I said, voice low, steady. Asher started to shift. "Don't," I repeated. They froze. I stepped back, pulled the door shut, and locked it from the outside. The deadbolt clicked with a finality that felt too poetic for real life. I turned on my heel and walked straight into our bedroom. The phone was on the nightstand. I picked it up and dialed a number I never thought I'd use this way. "Juno," I said when she answered. "Hey, I need you to come to my house, right now. Don't ask why. Just come." There was a pause. "Blaze, please." I hung up. Back in the hallway, I could hear them behind the door, voices rising, then muffled again. I sat down on the bench across from the linen closet and looked around the room like I was already processing it for evidence. Delaney's phone was lying on the vanity counter, unlocked, notification screen glowing. I reached for it. The message preview was right there. Tuesday's clear. He leaves at 8:10. I scrolled. Don't worry. It's all been planned. Just leave the key where I said. I didn't read more. I didn't need to. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't impulsive. They had scheduled me out of my own life. Behind the locked bathroom door, I could hear the tone of their voices shifting from panic to bickering. Blame was already being assigned. The doorbell rang downstairs. Or maybe it was the buzz of a text. Juno was close. And this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about how many lives were about to explode. When I opened the door, Juno was already on the porch, clutching her phone like it was the only thing tethering her to gravity. She was still in her scrub's hair pulled back in a quick twist, face drawn and confused. I didn't waste time. I didn't greet her. I just stepped aside wordless and led her up the stairs. She followed close every step up, feeling like we were about to crest a hill we couldn't come back down from. At the top, I stopped in front of the closed bathroom door. The water was still running. The muffled murmur of voices floated through. She froze. "They're both in there," I said, my voice flat. "In my bathtub." Juno shook her head reflexively. No, that's not." I handed her Delaney's phone. Still unlocked. The last message glowed on the screen. "Tuesday's perfect. He leaves by 8:10. Juno stared. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her hand trembled. Her breath caught in her chest. I didn't need her to scream or cry. I just needed her to see. She stared at the door, eyes wide and glassy, then whispered, "How long? We're about to find out." We went back downstairs. I needed a moment away from the steam, from the sickening scent of my own shampoo. I sat on the sofa, facing the photo of the four of us smiling at a barbecue last summer. Juno sat beside me. She hadn't said another word. I placed the phone between us on the coffee table like evidence in an open case. "I'm going to build a timeline," I said. She nodded once, lips pressed tight. We started scrolling. Messages dated back months. Each thread a breadcrumb trail. I hadn't noticed every emoji, every "can't wait" and "miss you" dripping with a meaning I'd been blind to. There was one message time-stamped after a backyard dinner at my house that made Juno gasp. "Still can't believe we got that hour alone after the fire pit. Felt like high school again." Juno covered her mouth. "That night, Asher said he forgot his keys in your yard. Delaney came in to clean up dessert," I added. We kept going. Cheap motel confirmations, location shares, pinned photos of parking lots and empty houses, short clips, deliberate, blurry, grainy, but damning. They used code 2 gym time, picking up supplies, grocery dash. All alibis. Then Juno stopped scrolling. She closed her eyes, face tightening. "What this day?" she said. "Beck had a fever. I canceled a client to stay home. Asher still went out. He said it was work emergency HVAC call." I didn't say anything. We both knew now it wasn't an emergency. It wasn't work. It was scheduled. She turned to me, her voice low. "I let Delaney babysit my kids. I let her tuck Milo in. I let Asher drill anchors into the studs of my home office," I said. "He knew where I kept every file." And then came the voice. Through the ceiling. Raised. Panicked. Arguing. We both looked up. "She told me you were going to be gone all day. You said you checked his calendar. You were supposed to watch the time I did. You were the one." I got up, grabbed Juno's phone, unlocked the voice memo app. "Record," I said. She followed me up. I stood by the door. They were still shouting, no longer trying to stay quiet. I knocked twice, calm and clear. "Asher." "Delaney?" I said. "Just a couple questions." Immediate silence. Then Delaney's voice shaky. "Blaze, please, just how long has this been going on?" I asked. Asher's voice. "This isn't... You don't get to interrogate us." "No need to answer," I said. "You just did." Another pause. Then the sound of something hitting tile. Maybe a bottle. Maybe his fist. "Who scheduled today? Don't Asher. Don't answer Delaney. You told me he leaves by 8:10. You said the coast was clear." I turned to Juno. "Keep recording." Then I went downstairs again. I needed air. I needed clarity. And that's when I found it. Delaney's other messages. The ones I hadn't read yet. The ones not about rendezvous or regrets, but plans. Real plans. Once the funds move, there's no tracing. 3 weeks. That's when he's most distracted. Crypto wallet's ready, just waiting on the last chunk. I stared at the screen. The messages weren't just personal. They were financial, coordinated. She wasn't just cheating, she was dismantling everything I'd built. And she wasn't alone. I kept digging, found a note labeled Exit Plan. Read, if Blaze reacts badly, use history of stress from job. Bring up past fights. Paint picture of emotional volatility. Juno's voice behind me. Jesus. I turned. She held her phone like it was a bomb. They're going to say you're dangerous, she whispered. They're going to say you're unfit, I said. They're going to try to keep Milo and Beck from me. I looked her in the eye. Then we don't let them write the story. We saved every screenshot, every recording, sent everything to cloud storage. I even emailed copies to my work inbox, backups of backups. By the time we were done, the yelling upstairs had stopped. A cold, calculated silence replaced it. I wasn't angry anymore. That part had drained out. What replaced it was sharper, clean, tactical. I told Juno we don't respond emotionally, no shouting, no accusations, no letting them bait us. She nodded, jaw clenched. They want chaos. They don't get it. I turned my living room into a command center, my laptop chargers a power bank. I scanned Delaney's phone again, sent relevant files to encrypted storage. Each piece went into a labeled folder timeline. Voice memos, financial, risk. I took photos, door lock timestamps on the oven shadows falling across the living room at 12:23 p.m. Proof of everything. Not to make a scene, but to survive the one they were about to create. I called my attorney, explained the entire situation in bullet point form. Concise, professional. First thing he said, do not detain them. If they claim you threatened or restrained them, it muddies everything. I haven't laid a finger on anyone, I replied. Good. Keep documenting. Keep cool. Get them out legally. Don't try to get confessions, get facts. And Delaney. She's your wife. For now. She's still in your home using your resources. But anything beyond this point, file every interaction. I hung up and turned to Juno. We let them out. But we do it on our terms. Agreed, she said. They're waiting for a meltdown. They'll use it. Voices drifted from the bathroom again. Softer now. Urgent. They're definitely planning something, I said. Juno replayed the last bit of her recording. A few lines made my blood turn cold. If they come at us with this, we flip it. Say we were scared. Say they trapped us. She has your kids, Asher. And if she freaks, that's leverage. I looked at Juno. You still want to open that door? She stared back. We have to. Before we did, I dug deeper into the message threads past the flirty lines and betrayal to the real danger. I found one labeled, just in case. Delaney wrote, if he loses it, record it. Say he pushed. Say he screamed. Another from Asher. We've got friends who can say he's been on edge for months. You handle Juno. I'll make Blaze the problem. They weren't scared of being caught. They were scared of losing control of the narrative. They're going to make me out to be unstable, I said aloud. They're going to say I neglect my kids, Juno added. We stared at each other. We weren't just betrayed. We were being rewritten in real time. I opened my banking app. Sure enough, there was a transaction I didn't authorize. Small, but recent. A trickle. The money's already started moving, I muttered. They're liquidating, Juno said. This wasn't spontaneous. They've been building this. I logged everything. Screenshots, account logs, geotags, all of it. And finally, I walked back upstairs. I put my hand on the doorknob. Took a breath. They're not going to apologize, I said. I don't need them to, Juno said. I just want my boys safe. I nodded once, then unlocked the door. Let the war begin. I stood in front of the door, hand hovering over the lock with Juno at my side. My pulse wasn't racing, not anymore. It was steady, slow, like I'd trained myself to feel nothing. That's what it took now. Not rage, not grief, just clarity. I looked at her. No long arguments, no physical contact. We speak clearly with witness. You are mine. I am yours. No one touches either of us. She nodded. Her eyes were bloodshot, but focused. I've got your back. I hit record the second we walk in. I turned on voice memos, propped my phone on the hallway shelf, angled toward the door. We weren't just confronting them. We were building a record. Then I raised my voice, calm and low. The rules have changed. You'll walk out, but you'll hear me first. No sound from inside. But I knew they were listening. I twisted the lock and stepped to the side, deliberately leaving the path clear. No accusations of being blocked. No chance to say I stood in their way. The door cracked open. Asher stepped out first, shirtless, his jaw clenched like he was bracing for impact. Delaney followed behind him in my hoodie, soaking wet mascara streaking down her cheek. She looked straight at me, lips trembling. Blaze, please. She began, her voice already cracking. No, I said evenly. You don't get to start this. She reached a hand toward me. I didn't move. Her fingers curled in. I didn't mean, she whispered. This wasn't what you think. I messed up. I need to explain. But when she saw I wasn't softening, her tone shifted like a flipped coin. You locked us in. You were trying to trap us. Asher jumped in fast. This is illegal. You're holding people against their will, Blaze. I could call the cops right now. Go ahead, I said. They'll be interested in what you left on the burner phone in my nightstand. He flinched. You'll both be leaving this house within the hour, I continued. Delaney, once you've changed, you're out. I'm rekeying the doors today. If you need access, we'll do it by appointment through lawyers. Nothing unannounced, nothing unsupervised. Her mouth opened in protest. I cut her off. Every message, every voice memo, every timestamp has already been saved and backed up. My attorney's aware. Juno's attorney is aware. You can't just throw her out of her home, Asher began. Don't confuse location with ownership. You moved in emotionally months ago. You're leaving physically now. Delaney's eyes hardened. You're turning into someone else. This isn't you. No, I said. You just never saw this part of me before. The part that knows when to shut the door. Then Juno stepped forward, not trembling now. Asher, she said quietly, you need to understand something. You made choices that ripple out. You lied to your children. You risked them being raised in a life built on secrets. They won't even know they already do, she cut him off. And you will not come near me or our boys until there's legal clarity. No pickups, no unscheduled visits. Milo cried himself to sleep 3 nights last week. I thought it was nightmares. It was you. You're being emotional, Asher snapped. No, Juno said. I'm being their mother. Delaney tried again to sway me. This was just a mistake. One mistake. I pulled up my phone, opened the gallery, showed her the screenshot. It was her message to Asher, time-stamped at 2:03 a.m. the night of my father's heart attack. He'll be gone for hours. Bring the red wine. Let's toast to the last step. The color drained from her face. You think I'll cry over this, I said. No, I'll prosecute it. They fell silent, and then came the first strike. You should know, Asher said. Delaney already spoke with an attorney. If you make this difficult, we'll be filing for a restraining order. She's got grounds. For what I asked, for emotional intimidation, for controlling behavior, for unlawful detainment. There it was, their next move. Shift the spotlight, make me look dangerous. But I just smiled. You should have hidden your devices better. When I walked back into the bedroom, pulled aside the decorative vase on the shelf. Behind it, slightly tilted, was a miniature recorder, still blinking red. You were going to cut this up, edit it down, and use it as proof, I snapped. Shame it never caught what you wanted. I held my phone up and recorded its position from every angle. Juno joined me. He found yours. I found mine. You recorded us without consent in a private home. Which is a felony, I added. Delaney's lip quivered. You don't have to do this. No, I said. But you did. They left 10 minutes later, Delaney wearing clothes I'd put into a duffel bag without ceremony. Asher stood at the door for a long beat, waiting for something, maybe a flinch. I gave him none. Before Delaney stepped onto the porch, she turned and met my eyes. "You think this is over? It's not." "I hope not," I said. "I've only just started documenting." As the door shut behind them, my phone buzzed in my hand. I glanced down. Alert. A new device has signed into your Chase business account. Location unknown. Juno saw my expression change. "What is it?" "They're already inside my accounts," I said. We didn't sit down. There was no time for calm. I opened my laptop, accessed my bank, and there it was, an open session from a device in Fishers, Indiana. Not mine. I locked it out, changed passwords, enabled 2FA, froze the account. Then I went to transaction history. A small transfer. Recurring. Set to send every Tuesday at 4:12 a.m. "How long's that been running?" Juno asked. 3 weeks. That meant she'd started before I ever caught them. I checked my email logs. At some point, my backup contact email had been changed to a throwaway domain. Password recovery would have gone to her. She was siphoning the funds, I muttered. Slow, silent. The way no one checks until it's too late. Juno's phone rang. She picked up, then went pale. "What is it, Milo's school?" "They said Asher submitted an updated emergency contact list," added Delaney. My brain skipped. "He's trying to grant her access to your kids. He's trying to build a new family image on paper, then use it to attack custody." She was already dialing the school back. I sent her screenshots from Delaney's messages to bolster her claims. While she spoke, I opened our neighborhood group chat. Dozens of messages. Lines like, "Did you hear about Blaze?" I always knew he had control issues. Delaney always seemed scared. Juno screamed at him on the porch. "They're seeding the story," I said, "playing the long game." Then I saw it. A message posted at 2:38 p.m. the day I found them. "Just got back from Blaze's." Something felt off. He's acting strange. Should someone check on him? It was from Delaney's friend. She'd planted it while still in my house. Prepping the timeline, I said aloud. "So if she files something, there's a record." My phone buzzed again. Email from Delaney's lawyer. Formal notice. She intended to file for a protective order, alleging emotional manipulation, coercive control, and unsafe behavior. Another message, this one from Asher. "If you escalate, I go public." I looked at Juno. "They're pushing for a reaction." "Then we don't give it to them," she said. "We give them documentation." I called my attorney, relayed everything. "You need to file an incident report," he said, "not a 911 call. A formal statement covers your bases." He also warned me, if she files first, even a temporary order could restrict your access to your accounts, your home, and even movement. "Then I'm filing within the hour," I said. I grabbed my keys. "Let's go." Juno spoke with her kids' school, revoking permissions, updating lists, enforcing written pickup only. I made my report at the non-emergency line, spoke clearly, no emotion, just fact. I came home early. I found my wife and my neighbor in the bathtub. I have photographic, audio, and textual evidence. I asked them to leave, which they did without incident. I fear they will misrepresent this event. I want this documented. By nightfall, we had our records in place, our accounts locked, our legal positions noted. And yet, as I stood in the kitchen and watched the sun dip behind my neighbor's roof, I knew. This wasn't about a bathtub anymore. This was about who owned the narrative, the safety, the story, and neither of them had any intention of letting go. Then came the last notification. "A court filing has been registered under your name." And just like that, we were officially at war. I woke up to a sharp knock at the door. Not the knock of a neighbor or delivery guy, but the kind of deliberate knock that tells you someone wants to be heard and has a badge. My phone buzzed before I even reached the stairs. It was Harper, my attorney. "They moved first?" She said no greeting. "Delaney's filed for a temporary restraining order. Claims of coercion, emotional instability, and threat of physical harm." I didn't speak. My hand clenched tighter around the railing. "You'll have to get ahead of this now. I've already filed an emergency motion to respond today." Upstairs, Juno stood at the kitchen table with her own phone to her ear. Asher's lawyer just called, she whispered when she hung up. He's filing for emergency custody, claims I'm unfit, says I've created a hostile, unstable environment. He's trying to paint me as manic. I couldn't even find anger in that moment. Just the low, cold thrum of war. Not about love, not betrayal. Control. Perception. Power. Before we could strategize further, there was another knock. This one firmer. Through the side glass window, I spotted 2 uniformed officers. Welfare check. Someone had reported a domestic disturbance, alleging I'd locked people in the house and refused to let them leave. They weren't yelling. Yet. But everything about this screamed setup. I opened the door carefully, my hands visible. Calm. Neutral. I didn't flinch. Officers, I said evenly. My name is Lachlan Mercer. I'd like to make this easy. I have a copy of the non-emergency incident report I filed yesterday, the Ring camera footage from that time, and screenshots of my conversation with my lawyer documenting my actions. I handed them a printed packet. My voice didn't shake. I didn't blink. They took it, glanced at each other, then asked to see the Ring camera playback. I led them to the app on my iPad showing footage time-stamped to the minute, me unlocking the door, stepping aside, Delaney and Asher walking out unimpeded, nobody touched, nobody restrained. One officer watched silently while the other nodded slowly. We'll add this to the file. Thanks for cooperating, the taller one said. And just like that, they left. But the timing wasn't a coincidence. Someone wanted this to escalate. Someone wanted a reaction they could twist. I didn't give them one. Juno and I split duties. She went straight to Milo and Beck's school, demanding records of all recent updates to the emergency contact forms and pickup permissions. She returned an hour later with a printed form Asher's handwriting had added Delaney to the pickup list, dated 2 days before I caught them in the bath. Meanwhile, I sat in my office compiling what Harper called the kill folder. Not dramatic, just the truth. Just every message, every photo, every bit of proof that their plan hadn't been a reaction. It was a blueprint, a sequence. 6 months of texts from Delaney's phone cataloged and screen recorded. The footage from my phone's voice memo capturing their arguing through the bathroom door and after. A slow pan video of the tiny spy cam I found taped beneath the floating shelf in our bedroom, measured precisely to face the bed. Logins from my financial app showing a new trusted device logged in from an IP that traced back to Asher's office. Bank records showing an automatic transfer for $300 every 3 days to an account under a business I'd never heard of. But the final blow was in a forwarded message Harper dug up, an email from Delaney to Asher. I'll go to urgent care after. Maybe get pictures in case this needs to look real. No bruises, no injuries, just a pre-written script. I didn't need to argue. I just needed to show up. That afternoon, Juno and I stood outside Harper Quinn's downtown office. I was in a clean shirt, no tie, just enough formal to say I'm not hiding. Juno was in black, no makeup, her hair tied back, strong, sharp. Inside we rehearsed, not a performance, just clarity. We don't accuse, we don't insult. We present facts, timelines, documents, Harper reminded me. We let the truth stand up on its own. Outside the courthouse, I got one more alert from my bank. A new credit line had been requested under my name 2 days ago. Address a post office box in a neighboring county. I froze. She was trying to open new lines under my name. Harper took my phone. I'll have the fraud unit flag it, get a copy of that form. We'll present that too. We entered the hearing chamber. Small room, cold, pale lights. Judge Howard sat at the bench. Delaney sat to the left with her attorney. Asher behind her, his face smug like he already believed the lie. Her lawyer opened, painted her scared, trapped, that I controlled finances, isolated her socially, and escalated into behavior that frightened her. That I'd changed the locks, screamed threats, and used surveillance against her. That she feared for her safety and needed a court to protect her. Then it was my turn. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smile. I came home early for the first time in months. My job was canceled for the afternoon. I entered quietly. Found my wife in the bathtub with our neighbor. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I locked the door not to trap but to delay. I made one phone call to Juno Wright, the other person in that betrayal. She came over. We opened the door together. I passed the judge the ring footage, the voice memo, the texts, the bank records. I showed them the spyware, the altered school forms. I showed the email, maybe get pictures in case this needs to look real. The judge's brow furrowed. Her voice was clipped. So this was premeditated, yes, Your Honor. Juno spoke next. She described the manipulation, the plan to change schools' custody cities. They weren't just cheating, she said softly. They were building a new life and planning to erase us from it. The final blow, Harper slid a printed group text across the table. Time-stamped. Between Delaney and Asher. If he finds out, I'll say he scared me. You remind me to look shaken. We'll say it together, it'll stick. The judge tapped her pen 3 times. The sound echoed like gunfire. She denied the restraining order. Barred Delaney from the home without legal appointment. Froze all financial movement pending a forensic audit. Ordered a formal review of the custody situation Juno was facing, citing manipulation and interference. And most of all, she issued a warning. If further evidence of fabricated narratives arises, this court will pursue sanctions for perjury and bad faith legal filings. As we left the courthouse, the air felt colder. But not bitter. Just clean. I looked at Delaney, standing with her arms crossed, shaking not from cold, from exposure. Her carefully crafted performance was crumbling. And for the first time, I didn't feel hate. Just distance. The kind that no bridge can cross. I won the hearing. But I'd buried my marriage in that courtroom. I spent the next week ripping the house apart, not out of rage, but necessity. I changed every lock, replaced the doorbell camera, reset the garage remotes. I scrubbed the entire place, cleaned out drawers I hadn't opened in years. It didn't smell like her anymore. I made a list. A full inventory, what was mine, what was marital, what Delaney could take only by appointment with a third party. I logged every item in a spreadsheet. Harper advised I document everything. No more assumptions. At the bank, I sat down with a fraud specialist. We pulled every application, login, and inquiry from the past 6 months. She had tried to open 2 lines of credit under my name and 1 under a business alias. Small amounts. Easy to miss. Death by paper cut, the fraud agent called it. I flagged my credit, requested a freeze, created a backup account. The emails from Delaney stopped. But Harper kept forwarding notices. She was trying to delay the divorce now. Her leverage was gone. Every filing just made her look worse. When Harper sent over the proposed divorce settlement, I didn't blink. I signed. We got the house, the assets, the proof. She got her silence. Meanwhile, Asher faced fallout. His firm opened an internal investigation, HR violations, misuse of office resources, timesheet discrepancies. He started working from home. A few weeks later, Juno told me he'd been placed on leave. I used to think peace meant keeping everything smooth, no questions, no waves, no hard conversations. But now I know peace is something else. It's the moment you stop begging for honesty from people who've already chosen deception, and you start building a life that doesn't require you to shrink. What happened to me wasn't just betrayal. It was a lesson in boundaries and clarity, and in the quiet strength it takes to walk away without becoming bitter. If this story left something in your chest, if it reminded you of a time you had to start over, or a time you wished you'd trusted yourself sooner, then you're not alone. Sometimes what breaks us open also makes room for something better to grow. Not louder, not perfect, just real. And if you'd like to be part of a place where we listen without judgment and share without shame, I'd love to have you with us. Subscribe if you want to stay close to stories like this. And if you feel like it, leave a few words in the comments just where you're listening from or whatever this brought up for you. I read more than you think. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.